That's actually enough, I think. But there are two other stories. Maybe this is what the American version or the.
I think so.
Yeah. There's a story about. There's a very short story in the other version that's about the funeral of a child on that sort of Corniche thing, you know, in Naples, along that road. And I don't think it even has any dialogue. It's a short one. And then the other one has one about a man who's sort of the advisor of the people in the inner village. It's called The Professor, and people go to him with their problems, and he tells them things to do. But I love it. I hope people like it. Did you like it?
I like it. I like it a lot. I think I've seen the first. I knew the first episode. I remember it. The other one, there's less, but the first one I remember it. I don't know because the scene when he was Toto is putting the flowers from someone, either someone picked the idea of this and used it in another film, either I really saw it because I always remember that scene.
Yeah, I love Toto. He's such. I don't know him from. I don't really know his movies, but I love him in this.
He made a fantastic film with Pasolini called Celato Cellini. You should see. He's one of the best Pasolini movies nowadays.
I'll see it.
And after that about all comedies and things like that. But he was an aristocrat. He was a prince and completely broken, but he was a very nice one. I know
that's the opposite of De Sica. De Sica plays the aristocrat, and De Sica was very poor. I think he was very poor.
But you choose that particularly for something, or just because it's one more film that you really like, and you, in a way, you feel some points with your work, or it's just like a choose of someone that loves cinema?
Well, I wanted to show it just because I hadn't talked to many people who'd seen it, so I thought it was something maybe people wouldn't know, or a lot of people might not know. I love De Sica. There's so many great De Sica movies, and then I've always been interested in this form of a movie that's a collection of stories, and usually, often those films, they're uneven. Usually they're more than one director. Usually there's a different director doing each segment. It's rare to see one that's all one person's work, or one director, one group of collaborators together. I think this one has his usual script collaborator. What is he called? Cesare Zavattini. Yeah. And then the other person, I think the other writer maybe wrote a novel or a collection of stories that is based on
stories.
Yeah, I think it might be based on a collection of stories.
What is incredible when you see our film like this one, and you see how at the same time how modern he is when the second story about the gambler, when they pass all this playing with the kid, and we are there for about 10, 15 minutes without just with the expressions of the kid, with the words of the seeker, you feel someone, life of someone going through this small apartment in this it's incredible how the seeker could give us.
I mean, we see the whole game. In fact, that one, I don't think there's a time cut in the whole story. It's all just, it's in real time. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I would think it would be such a hard thing to do to make it. And there are points in it you don't, it's slowly building. I mean, it gets better and better. And both De Sica and the kid are both just are so perfect.
We are completely, trapped by these, these moments of all this story. In the last one, this shot of what man said, all this time when she, it's going back, going forth, going back, going forth, and how it keeps, during this something it's really, something that it's completely unusual.
Yes, yeah, that she finally knows what she's in for, and we take all that time to see her make that decision. Yeah.
Good.
And Sophia Loren is unbelievable. Yeah.
You are all your work. Yes, it's it goes in this kind of humor. With actors, fantastic actors who work all the time. In a way, you keep the tradition of working with a kind of family. A family. I think in Italian cinema we had that at that time. The same actors since all the canon, or even the Seeker playing himself, and all this. And do you have any relations with this period of your thinking, or just never all this period of the Italian cinema gave you something, or you don't think something?
Well, I think that period of Italian movies is sort of the. I don't know if you say that's the peak, but I mean, that handful of directors from those 25 years, let's say, are such a giant influence. The neo-realists through the Fellini period, and that handful of guys. I mean, I think to me, a movie like this is just full of things that you want to steal, that you will steal, and that I will. Also, the De Sica movie, within this one film, there's a real range of tones, and you see that in his whole body of work. That he's there's something consistent, but definitely there are different tonal kind of feelings in the various movies. A Miracle in Milan versus Shoeshine or Umberto Day. They're different schools of De Sica movies, maybe.
And you feel this humanity in this character that we find in your films. They are not cliché. They are not anything. And you feel the same when you go through your films, even when there is a absurd moments and everything, but you keep all close to the person.
Well, it's nice of you to say that. We don't have to force mine to be like De Sica, though. I don't mind if we just ignore mine in this context.
They don't ignore. They are here for you. You are making them discover De Sica, because I think mostly of the audience never saw a De Sica movie. That's one of the problems now with no prints, the cinema text, much less people go to cinema text. They are not this kind. The television doesn't show neither these films, and that's something that I think we lost the references, and I think all your films are all plenty of references, and I think is one of the good points that they could discover a film like that with you here.
Maybe there's another De Sica performance. Maybe some people will know, or people who don't know it would like to see is the Ophuls. Earrings of Madame D.
That is
Madame D. Yeah. He's great in that one, and that's a masterpiece.
He's talking about Madame D, the film about from Max Ophuls, And now that I know that the Portuguese Cinematheque has a print of that subtitle in Portuguese, and sometimes they show. If one day you see it in the program, please go, because it's one incredible movie in the city. Daniel W. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a nice story about that.
Do you want to tell it?
No, it's a story. It's just another time. You are here to hear your stories, not mine.
So are we going to do questions from the
Yes. If you have any questions for the audience, please. Any comments?
They don't have to be about this movie because we don't really know any more than everybody else.
Roberto should be here because it's much more, critic and something like that. Myself.
Hi, first of all, I want to say that I love your work and I'm so glad to be here with you.
Thank you.
What I want to ask is if this choice of this movie and the fact that you're here with this movie has anything to do with future projects. Maybe you're going to do another film about this Italian universe.
Well, I made one movie in Italy some years ago. I did a movie in Italy, not really this kind of setting, but I would. I don't really even. I don't mean to mention this, but I would like to do a. I'm sort of thinking about a movie that has this kind of form, a movie that's a series of short stories. I think it is a hard thing to do because I could feel that people could get. You finish a story and someone could feel like, are we really going to start over now? I mean, especially after 3 of them. But I love this. I love this one in particular, and I've always liked there was an Italian thing of doing these in the 60s, and there's the Boccaccio 70, and then there's also there's the one with the Fellini movie, the other one with the Fellini movie, that's the Edgar Allan Poe. I forget what it's called. There's a Louis Malle and there's a Fellini and there's another Italian director. I can't remember the name of the name.
There's another one called Roma Park.
Which is the Rossellini, the Godard, the Pasolini, the Roma Park. But that's not the Poe one. But anyway, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With Wes, you never know. He is telling that he's thinking of doing something around it, and when next movie, maybe it is something that when we hear and say, okay, maybe that thing or that thing. That's what I was thinking. I remember we were talking 2 or 3 years ago, and he told me, Paulo, I would like maybe to adapt a Stefan Zweig book. They said a Stefan Zweig book, okay? And he gave me the name of the book. It's the only big novel of Stefan Zweig. I don't remember.
Beware of Pity.
Beware of Pity. And okay, I read Beware of Pity, and I thought, but how is going to do this? It's a drama. It's something nothing to do with this work. And if you had seen the Grand Budapest Hotel, you could see, all the things of Zweig that are really in the movie, and now, in a way, I can understand that you inspired him. Even if the world, the climate of the Zweig novels, nothing to do with your film, but Zweig is there. And that's what is incredible in the way that you appropriate the work of you still, like you said, the work of it.
Well, I remember that conversation. You said something very encouraging to me, which was that Zweig was going into the public domain.
Yes, it was. At that moment, it was in the public domain.
Yes,
you just picked
the copyright ran out, so we could steal anything. Anybody else want to ask this question?
Right here, please. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
I'd like to ask, how do you create characters for your movies?
How do you create characters for movies?
How is the process?
Yeah, well, you know, I think often I guess there are so many different ways, but much of the time there's, for me, from my experience, there's somebody I know, somebody in real life who is at least to some degree the starting point for most of the characters. I have somebody in real life or somebody from a book or a movie. But really, I feel like more often than not, most of the big characters in the movies I've done start with somebody I know or have met. Yeah, that's usually the beginning.
That's essential. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, Wes. It's very nice to be with you here. I'm here. I have a question for you. It's about the kids. In this movie, we saw a lot of kids. They all look very smart and very almost divine, as in your movies. I'm talking about the Moonrise Kingdom, for instance, that marvelous movie. I would like you, could you share with us some of your experience working with kids?
Yes, well, you know, that's a big, you know, Desika, there are kids all through his whole body of work, and they're wonderful performances from children. I've always liked working with kids. You know, one of the great things is because they're usually so enthusiastic. First, I always leave a lot of time to search for them, and you know, spend a long period of time meeting, or usually not even meeting them. Usually looking at quick times and then choosing a few to meet. I mean, these days. You know, it's a crucial thing. And finding a kid is a hard thing to do to get somebody who is just going to be great, because you know, they don't have some technique that they've developed. It's just whatever is their most natural talent, just who they are, what they're like. You know, usually I find when you start the movie, they become the ones who know, you know, they know the script better than, certainly better than I do, better than the script supervisor, better than, when somebody doesn't quite know something on a set, they're usually the ones who can chime in and tell you it goes like this. You know, they study. You know, I've worked with kids who haven't done anything before, and I've also worked with a few very young people who've done lots of movies. On this, the last movie I did, they're not as little as some of these other ones, but there's an actor in the Grand Budapest movie that we just did. His name Tony Reveloy. He has a big part in the movie. He's never been in anything before, and we all had a great experience with him. He was just totally devoted to the whole thing, and was kind of game for anything, and is interesting and funny, and then there's also Saoirse Ronan, who may be 1 or 2 years older than Tony, but she's done probably 25 movies or something. You know, she's been working since she was a kid. And she has that thing that you sometimes see in kids who are working actors, where it seems completely effortless to them. They're almost like, you know, we had a kid in a movie I did a long time ago, Rushmore. There's a kid whose name is Mason Gamble. He had played Dennis the Menace, this movie, Dennis the Menace, and he'd been acting since he was 7 years old or something. And he was great, and he could be very real, but he was also sort of like a computer. You know, anything you told him, he could be programmed, and he would just instantly do it. You could direct him, you could ask for him to do something with just the slightest suggestion. He would know already what you were trying to say, because he's kind of heard it all before, and he would just do it. He would do it sort of wonderfully. Anyway, it's. You know, you see it in Desika how much he enjoyed working with kids. I found the same thing. It's a special kind of a very different kind of experience. You know, from working with real actors.
Who has,
Can I ask something?
yes,
Yeah, maybe we should keep the microphones kind of
yes,
close.
It's quite an honor, finally, to see you here in Portugal. My name is Lucia, the one that killed herself. I have two questions for you. One of them is, are you really thinking of making a thematic park? We saw some news that were talking about Wes Anderson wants to work with Mark Mothersbaugh to make the thematic park. So if that's going to happen, okay. It was an internet hoax, okay. And the other question about your movies is, aesthetic is very important in your movies, but also music. And Paulo brought us here Randall Poster 2 years ago, I think. And I would like you to talk how it's so, because it's a part of the movie. It's like an interpreter everywhere, like in Hotel Chevalier. Not so much in, I think, in Rushmore or in Bottle Rocket. Music wasn't that important, but in Tenenbaums, all the other movies, it's a part of the movie. It wouldn't be the same if the music wasn't there, and it's like it's built for the movie. So I would like to know what's the process of building this.
Yeah, well, sometimes I think sometimes from my experience with this stuff, sometimes I might have some songs or some music picked out in advance, and maybe even the script is it's something in the script is getting inspired by the music, or the whole idea for a scene or something is kind of coming from the music. And then there's a whole different process of working with the composer, which Mark Mothersbaugh, who you mentioned, is the first composer I've ever worked with. I really didn't know how do you do this? What's this process like? What do you say to when it's not like I mean maybe some people have the experience where the composer writes the music, gives it to them, and they say, wow, they just did something great and perfect. I don't usually have that, the first thing happen like that. And when I was doing my first movie, I didn't really quite know what to say because it's writing, and it's a type of writing that I can't do. And I don't have. I particularly then didn't have any real language to do it. But over the years, Mark Mothersbaugh and I had a great collaboration. We've had a great collaboration, and also I've worked with Alexandre Desplat on maybe 3 movies, and we have a lot of fun doing it. He lives just a few blocks away from me, and I go over for a few hours, and he plays me some things, and we talk about it. And usually, with him, he's very busy. We don't pay. We don't have the money. He does. When he's doing Godzilla and he's doing one with me, there's not the same. It means something different to his business manager. And so I usually have short periods of time with Alexandre, and that's actually been it's been good in a way. He writes some sketches for me, and I take those to my editing room, and we play with them for a while, and then I bring them back to him, and sometimes I edit the things and then show Alexandre, and he reworks them, but he works very, very quickly. The last movie we did, we used a balalaika orchestra, this group of musicians that we brought from Moscow, and that was I think on each of the ones that Alexandre and I've done together, we tried to find some new kind of concept or sound or type of music to imitate or steal from or be inspired by. So that's sort of an answer.
Hello, it's nice meeting you. Regarding your style, I think it's very rare that a filmmaker stands out so clearly in terms of your vivid colors or symmetry or ensemble of actors, your naive tone. I mean, it's very consistent all over your work, but it's always very original as well. It never gets boring anyway. So I wanted to ask if you always had in mind this kind of aesthetics when you started your career, and if we can somehow expect one day to see a shift, a complete shift from this.
Well, I don't really, when I'm doing a movie, I usually I'm not really thinking about those. I'm usually thinking about what's different about this story and gathering ideas for how to try to make it interesting. I think the thing you're talking about, that's the thing I do. I have one friend who, anytime he sees a new thing I do, I say, well, what did he says? Well, more the same. I can see why he says that. But that's not really what I'm thinking about. All the things, but we've gone to we've done a completely different kind of story. But I think the things that make them the same are almost the things I don't choose. That I don't feel I have a choice. Almost, they're just my sort of my instincts, and I would definitely say it's not stuff it's not really what I'm preparing. But it also might be the way I do prepare a movie. Just my methods may lead to some of these
Comes
things.
naturally.
Yeah, maybe so.
Thank you.
I have so many questions I'd like to ask, but I'll just choose one. When I saw you were presenting the Seeker movie, I thought maybe this was a major influence to you and to your work, but apparently you just saw it not so long ago.
Right.
So I'd like to ask you, which director would you say, which ones are your major influences?
Well, there's so many. I think, but I would put the Sika among those. Fellini, and there's a Rossellini that I just saw the other day. That's also with the Sika, General della Rovere, which is a wonderful movie. There's a Visconti that I saw not the Mastroianni. What is it called? Notte Bianchi. Yeah. Italian movies have always been a great inspiration for me, I think, and at the top of the list of ones I've loved.
But you are talking about films you saw after you made most of your films, so inspiration comes after.
Well, that's possible. But I've loved those. Those are movies I've loved. Those are filmmakers whose work I was interested in long before I ever did a movie, anyway.
Yeah, what I want to ask you is, do you strive for absolute perfection in your work, or is it at some point you have to say to yourself, okay, maybe 30 versions is enough, and I can choose one of them?
Well, I wish we had the bad versions here. I mean, I think it's like the love right now. You can probably see that the R's just got better and better. I don't really remember those R's. But that one. I don't know if I usually you just have X amount of time to work on the movie, and I usually just try to I tend to just keep doing things until we run out of time, more or less. And it's something like that, like writing, it's really, I don't even think about it as being versions. It's probably just a slow process, because we were trying to make a sort of typeface for the movie that we were trying to make up a new one. Well, there's a reason why you use old ones, because they're sort of hard to get right. So yeah, but usually there's just practical limits around everything, and it's not like I'm going to go and want to do 100 takes of something or anything like that. You just sort of use the time that you've got, and And you know, years ago I did a movie that went way over budget, and you know, it was a movie that was, I think the schedule for the movie was 80 days of shooting, which is already like twice as much as I think I ought to have. And we shot for 100, and it wasn't, in fact, Willem's still here, you know, he knows. He was there. There were like 9 trailers. You know, each movie star was in a different trailer. Well, Willem is an unusual case because Willem likes to stay on the set. He wants to know what's going on. He doesn't. In my experience with Willem, he doesn't want to go and you know, watch ESPN. You know, while the lighting is happening. But most actors do. Or a lot of actors do, and on that movie, it was you know, the thing that starts happening is you ask everybody to come to the set, and they start asking, "Is so and so there yet?" No, he's still in this trailer. Just, I'm ready. Let me know when he gets out. Well, then you have like 9 people all waiting for somebody to come out, I don't know how I segued into that from the typography, but I do feel it's all connected somehow.
Hi. Good night, Mr. Wesenson. My question to you is, if you could choose just one movie that you can see for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
You say to shoot or to watch?
To see, to watch, yes.
To just watch.
Just one.
I mean, I guess you want something really long. Yeah. You know, I mean, maybe if we put the Godfather movies, we get those going. Especially the first 2. Yeah. Is it what is the longest movie?
I don't know. I read some, but it's not. I don't know. In the past, I had movies with 5 or 6 years. You know, Million of a Chance, I think it was 4 hours and a half.
No, there's a 5-hour and 10 minute version.
No, Mysteries of Lisbon is 6 hours.
How long is The Long Nymphomaniac that you haven't seen? 5 and a half.
I think it's 5.5.
5.5.
There's a Napoleon movie, maybe the Infant. Yeah, there's a 7 hours movie in Napoleon.
But the 7-hour Napoleon. Oh, Alabama. Yeah, we could do that one too.
Okay.
Hi, it's an honor to meet you. I have a question concerning you're always working with models. How did you come up with this idea?
I'm working with models, is that what you said?
Yes.
Do you always see who's talking? Can you tell who's talking?
I'm waving.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this last one especially, we had models. You know, I've always liked you mean like miniature things,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, like the switch of the scale.
Yes, yeah. Like this last movie we had, there's a hotel that a lot of the movies in this hotel, and we didn't find the hotel we wanted. You know, we didn't find, we sort of found as we were researching, we discovered all kinds of things that our group, my production designer things we wanted our hotel to be like, but we didn't find the real place, and it doesn't really exist anymore. You know, it's a set in the past. So just because I like miniatures, it's the combination of well, the main thing is you can make anything you want when it's a miniature. You know, you can make it exactly how you envision. You can include any ideas that you come up with. And I like the collaboration of working with people who do that kind of work. You know, it's a kind of old-fashioned way of making a movie, but you know, I'm drawn to it.
Yeah.
Hi. Well, I was going to ask you about the cinematography in your movies, but someone got there first. So,
About cinematography, did we do this?
No, not yet.
No, he asked about the light and picture and the framing, but I wanted to know what got you into stop motion animation and how you ended up making a full-length feature film in stop motion, and if you want to try it a bit more.
Yeah, I would like. You know, what got me into it. I'm not entirely sure what got me into it. I think really it was, there used to be a lot of things on TV in America, the holiday specials that were done in stop motion, and I think I liked those. And then I made a Roald Dahl, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and it was a kind of hard process to figure out how to go about it. It was there was a lot of time spent just learning how animators work, but it was eventually a very fun, exciting experience. You know, it all happens very, very slowly, but there tend to be many things happening slowly at once. So sometimes we would have 20 units going, at the same time, and so it stays interesting, and it goes on for a long, long time. But I do want to do it again. I have an idea for I have an idea for an anthology movie like this, and I have an idea for a movie that I want to do in stop motion. Both of them, I don't have a script. And the Italian thing I like is when you see these movies, you know, some of these movies you see a Rossellini movie, and in the writing credits is Fellini. You know, there could be 5 guys, yeah, and you know, very talented people collaborating. I would love to have a writing posse like that, but I don't.
One last question.
Hi, nice to meet you. If you have to make a remake of a movie, which one would you choose and why?
You do a remake. Gotta do a remake. I can't say that I have one right off the top of my head to trot out. I mean, I guess the thing I would do, I probably wouldn't mind doing like a kind of like a Rififi or Maltese Falcon type, something that's a real, like a crime story maybe, that's very, you know, that's got a plot. That's one thing that's a real advantage, I think. I've often made movies that you know, I don't want to brag, but that don't have a plot. I did, you know, the movie that you produced, the Amalric movie, that's the Simeno, the Blue Room. Yeah, I loved that, you know, maybe a remake of a mystery or a crime story would be good.
You can discuss that.
Thank you.